Born in New York City, Bruce Geller, a psychology and sociology major, graduated from Yale University in 1952. He gained modest success writing the book and lyrics for several musical theater productions, as well as writing scripts for shows on the Dumont television network, a now dissolved early rival of NBC and CBS. Geller eventually left the hustle and bustle of New York City for sunny Los Angeles, where he worked as a scriptwriter for such shows as Have Gun Will Travel, The Rebel, and The Rifleman. While working as the co-executive producer of the series Rawhide, Geller was inspired to create a Cloak and Dagger series after watching the 1964 heist film Top Cappy, which involves a group of thieves, each with a unique specialty, forming a team in order to steal some priceless jewels from a museum undetected. In 1966, Geller created, wrote, produced, and directed Mission Impossible for CBS, which ran from 1966 to 1973 to much acclaim. Starring Peter Graves as team leader Jim Phelps, Mission Impossible chronicled the exploits of the Impossible Mission Force, or IMF for short, a team of secret government agents used for covert missions against dictators, evil organizations, and crime lords. Each episode of the show would begin with a match being struck and a long fuse being lit. As audiences watched the fuse burn, they would be delighted by a quick montage of shots from the current episode, played along to composer Lalo Schifrin's now famous Mission Impossible theme song. Beginning with the phrase, "Your mission, if you choose to accept it," the start of each show would have Jim Phelps given mission instructions by a mysterious voice on an audio tape, which would fizzle up and smoke profusely as it self-destructed, usually just after the mysterious voice on the tape would utter, "As always, should you or any of your team be caught or killed, the secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions." The show became very popular and ubiquitous in pop culture, warranting a series reboot in 1988, which ran for 2 seasons, Peter Graves being the sole actor to return to portray his original role of Jim Phelps. Paramount Pictures owned the rights to the Mission Impossible series and had tried several times to get a film version off the ground. It wasn't until actor Tom Cruise, an admitted fan of the original show, came aboard and agreed to make a Mission Impossible movie the inaugural project for his then new production company with his producing partner, Paula Wagner. With his star power, Cruise was able to convince Paramount to greenlight a $70 million budget for what he imagined would be a, quote, big showy action piece. Directed by Brian De Palma and written by David Koepp, Steve Zalian, and Robert Towne, the movie opened on Wednesday, May 22, 1996, to a then record 3,012 theaters, becoming the first movie ever to be released to over 3,000 theaters in the United States. It received mostly positive reviews from critics, but was also criticized by some to be convoluted and lacking any human dimension despite an attractive cast. Peter Graves refused to appear in this film due to the way the character of Jim Phelps was portrayed as a villainous traitor, a point of contention upheld by several of the original cast members, including Martin Landau, who trashed the script, saying that it wasn't very good anyway. Despite its detractors, Mission Impossible grossed $75 million in its first 6 days and went on to be the third biggest movie of 1996, with a worldwide box office total of $457.6 million. Tom Cruise would continue to produce and star in at least 5 more sequels, with each film being better received than the last. A truly impossible feat, making this series a contender for greatest film franchise ever. I'm Matt McGregor, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts Harris McCabe and Colin Shaw. This is a show about movie franchises. This is License to Watch.
Why in the world was this movie made?
Well, I have a good story. When I used to work for the Jay Leno show, as a page at the end, I may have told you guys this story before. I may have said it on the podcast. Who knows? But on your last day, you get to take a photo with Jay Leno on the stage of the Tonight Show, and I remember standing there next to him, his arm around me, and thinking to myself, I would be so famous if right now I just, as hard as I could, just rocked Jay Leno in the nuts with my fist. He just cripples down to the floor. Security attacks me and beats the shit out of me. But it would for sure make the news, and I would be forever known as the guy who hit Jay Leno in the balls.
It would launch your career as a ball assaulter.
Yeah. It would blackball me out of Hollywood for sure, but
Blue ball you.
The thing is, if you had tried to pull that, Glozell would have launched herself from the audience and tried to beat the shit out of you.
That voice you hear, that's Andrew Zuber, famed writer and magician. What's up?
Oh, we're doing this now? Hey.
And
this is it.
and a writer is also a word magician, so he's like a magician 2 times over.
It's true. I make words
What a
appear.
writer does is they take words and they turn them into thoughts.
They turn them into sentences.
Yeah.
Yeah, complete thoughts.
which Colin can't even do that as a speaker usually.
It's really hard.
Andrew, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this. You're our first guest ever.
I'm honored and worried.
I was on your podcast many moons ago.
You were.
Yeah, and what happened to that show? You guys aren't still doing that, are you?
We did it. We did 100 episodes, and then we got picked up by the Nerdist right when we were deciding we didn't want to do it anymore.
Oh, wow.
And so then we did some with them, and then we got burnt out. We started to hate each other, and we hated entertainment, and we hated podcasting. So,
Well, the trick is that we started out hating each other, so we've got a lot of longevity, I think. We were just right automatically from the start, inculcated in a lot of hate and animosity.
is that something though where you guys are like trapped in a room together, and you're gonna eventually just fall in love with each other because you don't have a choice?
Or eat each other.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually. What do you mean?
Whoa. Hey, Colin.
Yeah.
What do you mean
There's
eventually?
I see only 2 ways this can end. Love or cannibalism.
It's sort of like when you're forced to watch or not forced, but when you watch a bad movie over and over again, you kind of begin to find things you like about it. And that's what we are. That's our relationship in this podcast.
That's beautiful.
So here we are. We're talking about Mission Impossible, possibly the greatest franchise ever made by human beings.
Correct.
There we go. That's two.
Wow.
I've stated it.
It's a hard yes on that.
Yeah.
So we're focusing on the first in the series, 1996, Tom Cruise vehicle, simply titled Mission Impossible. How many times did you guys watch this movie?
Ever?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Did you see it when it first came out?
Oh yeah, I saw it when it first came out. This is like right in my wheelhouse. This is high school for me. So this is like old enough to drive, have a driver's license, and the friends all go out to movies. Actually, I was looking at this was the 3rd biggest grosser this year, after Independence Day and Twister. And I remember seeing all of those movies in the theater.
Wow.
And this was the only one I liked, I think.
Twister came out a week before this, I think.
Yeah.
Really? I did not get to see Twister in the theater, but I did see it as soon as it hit VHS.
I saw Twister in the theater in England, of all places, and they didn't subtitle it, so it was great. I knew what was going on.
I feel like in England they think tornadoes are like made up, like the boogeyman or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're like, this is fiction.
Yeah.
They're like, why is the fog moving like that?
Yeah.
That isn't normal.
Yeah, it's like what is it? The Kraken. It's like a sky kraken. That's what a tornado is to like
That's what they call it. That's English for tornado is sky kraken.
Do they have natural disasters over there? What's
Just the food.
The food,
Yeah. Having lived there for a year, I can say for sure it's the food.
They got the thick fog in London.
They do.
Was that the year that you lived there, 1996?
No, I was visiting there at the time.
And you said, this is a place I'm going to live for a year in the future.
I was like, here's two
But no
things
more.
I know about this place. I'm going to go see Twister in the theater for some reason. And then I'm going to come back here and stay for a year.
I hear the best thing about England is watching Helen Hunt movies in the theater.
That's as good as it gets.
Very good. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. I'm going to
What
bow
you've
out.
done is the right thing.
I saw Twister in the theater. This is now a podcast about Twister.
Yeah.
I saw Twister in the theater, and during this time, I had just recently discovered that some movies have scenes at the end of the credits if you wait around. Much to the chagrin of my dad, who took me to see the movie, I made him wait till the end because I don't know if you remember, but Twister's credits play over like images of the sky.
Yeah.
And, so it feels like there might be something at the end. And as we're waiting, the entire theater is cleared out. And there's one guy who comes back into the theater. He's not an employee. He's just a regular guy. He pulls out a Ziploc bag and he starts going around and bending down and like picking up candy off the floor and yeah, and putting it in a Ziploc bag. And my dad like nudged me. He was the one who spotted the guy, and he was like, "Check this guy out." My dad, me, and my brother all watched this guy in awe as he just like was picking up disgusting candy and putting it in a Ziploc bag, and then he put it in his pocket and he left, and he went on his merry way.
Was there like a moment where he noticed that you guys were there and was like embarrassed for a second, like hesitated, like, oh shit, I thought this place was empty?
Nope, I don't think he noticed or cared.
I bet he didn't even have soapy water in that bag either.
And there is a bonus scene at the end of the credits. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's like, "The Twister's back." Do you remember that he's in that movie? Even?
Yeah, he's great in that movie. He wears a Hawaiian shirt the whole time.
Those were my heroes when I was a kid.
Hawaiian shirts?
Fat guys in Hawaiian shirts.
So the Jurassic Park podcast is next? Is that what you're telling me?
Dennis Nedry. Love that guy.
Yeah.
Speaking of, that's one of our screenwriters here in this movie is
Dennis Nedry.
Yeah, David Koepp. This is like a
Who
murderer's.
was so hot at this time.
Yeah, this is like a murderer's row of like Steve Zalian, David Koepp, and Robert Towne, who is like, everyone. The first thing you learn about screenwriting is try to write a screenplay as good as Chinatown. So this is an absolute amazing lineup of screenwriters who apparently had a hell of a time coming up with a script that everyone liked.
What does it have to do with the guy who plays Newman?
Because David Koepp wrote Jurassic Park.
Oh, thanks. I'm really sorry. I could not put that together.
That's okay. I'm glad you pointed it out. You probably.
I don't
weren't
know
the only
anything
one.
about writing really, but I did write on 2 shows with a good friend of mine named Will Schifrin, and Will's dad is Lalo Schifrin, who wrote the Mission Impossible theme song.
Oh, wow.
And a ton of other stuff.
His name's Lalo.
If you look him up
That's
on IMDb,
awesome.
he's got pages and pages of credits. But yeah, Mission Impossible is the thing he's most well known for.
Not only did he do the whole score of this, the whole original series was kind of amazing. And they used, I didn't realize at the time, but a big part of the Danny Elfman score in this one was borrowed from not just the main theme, but also the plot, which was a frequently reused score for the original TV show. That was also Lalo Schifrin, I think. And it was like, it's this like great like march, and you totally recognize it if you heard it. But anyways, that's kind of something I never noticed before, but that was a main theme in the show that came up again and again as a signature in both this movie, and I think they even brought it into some of the later ones.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they definitely do bring it back in the later ones, like more poignantly where you can spot it. I think in this movie, it's just like hinted at, or like I didn't notice it, or maybe it's so subtle.
I didn't notice the score very much at all when I was watching it. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I remembered all of it. It's like it's memorable, this movie.
I remember seeing it in the theater as a kid and liking it, but not fully understanding why I liked it, or like the plot is a little confusing for a young person, I would think, but
I'm 38 and I was like, what's going on?
When I saw it, I was young and I was very impressed with myself for keeping up. You know what I mean? I was like, I feel like I just saw a grown-up movie. It's kind of like how I felt,
Yeah.
Well, I think that one of the nice things about it is, like a lot of the Bond movies, even if you don't really get what's happening, it's basically, I'm sure you guys read a lot of the backstory about how this was written, but at some point they didn't have a screenplay that they really liked, but they knew they had to go into production. So at some point, De Palma and Tom Cruise were just thinking up awesome sequences that they wanted to shoot. And the screenwriters were trying to adapt the plot to the sequences to be like, okay, why would they have to do this? Why would they have to do that? How can we get them on a train?
It's really 3 main things. It's 1, the operation gone wrong. 2, stealing the list, the big heist, and 3, the resolution.
And we gotta have a restaurant with a giant fish tank.
Exactly. In between, they're just like, hey, I got this idea about a fish tank exploding. Can you write a scene about that?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's sort of an interesting. It's funny how it came together that way. What's really amazing is that this became. I don't remember if it's the second one, but I think it's the 4th one for sure, where they kind of had the same trouble getting the screenplay to a place where they wanted to do it, and they just started coming up, same idea, coming up with sequences that they thought were interesting, and the plot is basically just something to thread those things together. So a lot like the Bond movies that we watched, it's not critical that you understand what's going on or even that it makes any sense. It's just an excuse to have one exciting moment after another. And as long as you nail the exciting moments, that's what people are there for.
It works.
Mm-hmm.
It's very entertaining.
You know what I think is crucial about the fish tank scene is the guy getting blown like through the window out into the street, because it sets up the gum explosion thing. Also, he only gives him one stick of gum, but he keeps going back to it. But that's not important right now. The gum thing.
He gave him a pack.
I assumed he gave him a pack.
It's great,
like at least a 5-pack.
In the aquarium scene, the aquarium restaurant scene, they set up the fact that the gum explosion can propel a body, some distance through a window and into a street. And we see that come back later when he blows up the helicopter, because he was attached to the helicopter and he goes to being attached to the train.
Right.
And
it's physically absurd, but they have sort of set up that in the world of this movie, this is something that is possible.
Yeah, it's absolutely nonsense, but at least they took the time to make it seem a little more real.
But speaking about that scene, when that guy gets blown out the window, how fucking awesome is that?
It's one of the
it makes
top
no
5
sense
moments
for
of
sure.
the whole movie for me.
Yeah, just the look on his face too, just before he like sees the gum and he looks at it, and you're like, "Oh, this is not going to go well for you, guy. This is bad news." You know what's funny is I forgot that he got blown out. That's one of the things that I forgot about this movie. And as they're sitting in the restaurant, I was like, he throws the gum against a fish tank, but then he jumps through the plate glass window. How does the window explode? And I couldn't remember how. And then I was like, as soon as I saw that guy look with his big dumb face, look at the gum in the fish tank, I was like, oh yeah, he breaks the window.
Yeah.
Also, the gum like sticks to the fish tank, even though he didn't chew it.
Right. It's very wet, dry gum.
Yeah.
No lie, I watched the movie basically sitting in complete silence up until the guy gets blown through the window, and I was like, fucking hell yeah.
If you watch the behind the scenes of that, they have Tom Cruise like sort of crouched like he is down by the window of the restaurant, and I think they only did it once, and they basically dump all those gallons of water, and so they count down to 3, 2, 1, but the explosion happens at like 2. And he was supposed to stay till the last beat, so he stays, it explodes, and you could see, like, there's this moment of, like, freaking out, and he gets up, and he, like, sort of hesitates getting out the door. It's not nearly as smooth as it looks in the movie, but then, like, when he jumps out and jumps over the guy who gets thrown through the glass, it plays exactly like it does in the movie. It looks far less awesome in regular speed, but, like, in slow motion, they nailed that take.
Is he wearing a suit jacket in that part? I feel like getting soaking wet in the streets of Prague would definitely affect your nipple sensitivity.
Your nipple chafing?
Like
yeah.
he'd just be
I
like,
think there'd be a lot of chafing.
Basically just like hard points.
He also spends a lot of time running full speed on concrete in dress shoes.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't think as a younger man, I ever would have. Matt, are you actually laying down and taking a nap in the middle of the podcast?
I sure am.
Oh my God.
Hey, I got dressed up for you guys. I'm wearing a shirt today.
Very
It doesn't even
professional.
have sleeves.
Very professional. Oh my God.
I didn't get too dressed up, okay?
Oh my
What
God.
are you doing? It looks so bad with the background you have. of a
Yeah, it
bunch of
really
actors'
looks
faces.
like Tom Cruise is about to devour you.
Yeah, it looks very, very sexual.
It's
Oh,
terrifying.
We're putting all of this on YouTube. Are you recording this? Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Is anyone recording this on Zoom?
No, I think only you can because you're the host.
Oh, damn. Oh, well, I missed out on that.
Yeah. Oh my
For
God.
those listeners who can't see, I have the Tom Cruise laughing meme as my background.
And he is in full like Jabba the Hutt reclining in his lair mode.
Yeah, I'm just imagining Matt as Jabba, and he's got Tom Cruise on a leash instead of Leia.
Exactly.
Like Child Protective Services is on their way somehow.
Sir,
I feel
please
like
come with us.
I feel like we've painted an adequate picture. I don't regret that this won't go on YouTube.
Guys, I'm living the life I want to live. Okay? I'm stuck in my house. It's the least I could do is lay down while I'm recording.
I am screenshotting this for the gram.
But the actor who's in that that fish tank restaurant scene, who they're actually bringing back for the next Mission Impossible movie. I don't remember his name, but he's great, and they should have brought him back for all the other ones too.
Who, Kittredge?
Oh, the guy that's
Kittredge, yeah, that's it.
that guy's great.
Yeah, he's good.
He's so good.
He's just so believable as who he's playing as soon as he says one word.
And also the dialogue in that scene is excellent, because we have this revelation where Tom Cruise realizes that it's a mole hunt, which is probably one of the things that baffled you guys when you were younger. But he has that moment where he's like, you can't follow me? Well, try to follow me around the room. And he points out all the people in the room that were the other team on the mission. And it's just such a good tension-building moment. And also, Brian De Palma is the perfect director for this movie because it is a little bit style over substance, which is, I'm not bad-mouthing Brian De Palma. I love Brian De Palma. But he's a flashy filmmaker, and you never forget that you're watching a fucking movie when it's Brian De Palma directing. And this is one of those moments where, like, as soon as the scene starts to turn, he starts, like, canting the angles of the camera and, like, shooting up people's noses. And, yeah, it's like everything gets like, oh, crazy fucked up shit is happening. The score comes in. Like, this is an aggressive score that's telling you exactly what you're supposed to be feeling at all times. And
I will
that's
say
just
that
his style.
the first time I saw this movie, when it first came out, my dad always complained about moles in our yard. So when he talked about it being a mole hunt, I was like, well, I'm really lost at this point because I don't understand.
Why don't they just get a gardener?
Yeah, like just hire a guy to come in and take care of it. I don't understand why you need a big government operation to get rid of a few of these little rodents.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of things I've seen this movie plenty of times before, and I remember thinking of it as not being as good as the later ones, but I don't know. I mean, I really dug this movie. I like a lot of the directorial choices. For instance, like, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the one when Jon Voight's Jim Phelps character comes back into the fold, and he's sitting there at the cafe talking to Ethan Hunt and explaining to him that Kittredge is the mole. And as he's explaining the story of how it happened, Ethan Hunt is imagining that, it's Jim Phelps. He knows that it's Jim Phelps because he's already found the Bible.
Yeah.
And at that point, that was probably a smart move because at that point, if you're paying attention as an audience member, Kittredge has already said that anybody who survives is the mole. We know Ethan Hunt isn't. So the fact that there's another guy who survives, it's like, if we were paying attention, we'd already be suspicious. So they don't even bother trying to fool us with that. They're just like, you know what? This isn't even a reveal. This is just, he's the bad guy now, and Tom Cruise is onto him.
But it's done in such a subtle way because, so Tom Cruise finds the Bible and it says the Gideons, and like it plays back in his head that Jon Voight says earlier in the movie that he's at the Chicago Drake Hotel or whatever. So we, as the audience, should know in that moment, oh shit, it was Jim Phelps, but he's dead. That's weird. So then when he shows up alive later on, you instantly should put two and two together and be like, oh, he's bad. But they play it like the reveal is happening during that scene. But there's a lot of things going on there. So like, it's also not super clear directorially. Like, there's no moment of like Tom Cruise like realizing that it's Jim Phelps because his character already kind of knows.
He's playing it cool.
What's cool about it is it gives you it gives you the answer, but it makes you feel like you came up with the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also lets them actually have a conversation about it without becoming enemies, like, openly. They can have this conversation about why he did it and how betrayed Ethan Hunt feels without that actually changing the plot of the movie.
He has to do that too to figure out what's going on with Claire.
Right.
I think one of my gripes with I noticed this when I watched it last week, was that he imagines him coming into the hotel room that first time, and then the second time that we see him, he's back and he's really there that time. And maybe it's just like a writerly thing, but I'm always thinking in like, doing things in threes. And so I would have loved to have seen a second time where he sort of pictures him and thinks he's, seeing him and he's really not there. So then the third time when he comes back, it lands. It's sort of more of a, I don't know. I should text to Palma about this and see if he can shoot something, or I don't know.
I kind of wonder if that was maybe something that was in I wouldn't put it past him to have something like that in an early draft of the script, because it does seem like they set up the hallucination as a misdirect for the eventual him being alive.
Yeah.
Which, you're right, they would probably have to reinforce that a second time. And the same way with, like, I wonder if they originally intended to have this be a big reveal that Jim is a bad guy at the end, but then they were like, no, everyone's going to figure that out, so let's just get it out in the open.
Right.
So here's the big question. What's better, Jon Voight in this or Jon Voight in Varsity Blues?
This was kind of like the so Jon Voight takes a beloved TV character and turns him, like, has this heel turn in this movie. But it also, this was kind of the restart of Jon Voight's career, because he was a huge star in the 70s.
Right.
And then kind of fell out of favor in the 80s and wasn't acting a lot. And he had a minor role in Heat that was kind of the start of his comeback. But this was his first big comeback movie.
Yeah, he would not have gotten the Varsity Blues role without this, for sure.
Exactly. Well, he really hadn't played a bad guy before. He'd always played this all-American boy kind of honest dude. And that was the part of the reason that they cast him in this, was because he seemed like a good guy who you wouldn't believe, A, the character Jim Phelps, and B, the actor Jon Voight would be playing a bad guy. But then this launched a string of, like, Anaconda and Varsity Blues.
I was just going to say, a few months later, he's in Anaconda as a real dick.
He basically has been a heavy for the rest of his career.
Honestly, it's a trick question anyways. We all know the best Jon Voight is, of course, Zoolander.
Yes, true.
See, I'm picturing Jon Voight walking out of the locker room in Varsity Blues, and he's walking down that dark hallway when he's walking away, and he takes the mask off, and it's Tom Cruise the whole time. And we just keep doing that with every role that he's in for the rest of his
life. Every Jon
life.
Voight movie is really Tom Cruise playing Jon Voight.
That's how it should have ended. Instead of the helicopter thing, he should have just been like, no, you're going to come with me. And then he starts walking down the hallway of the train and just like, let's go.
Yeah, so that was the whole thing, is that they asked, who was the original actor who played Jim
Peter Graves.
Yeah. They asked him to come back and play the role, and he was like, basically like, fuck you guys, because he didn't want his character to be portrayed as a traitor. And then they asked, I imagine the script was very different. Like, the team in the beginning was supposed to be like the original team from the original show, and then they were all going to get killed. And they were like, I mean, I get it. That's a cool idea, because it's a property that, like for instance, if you did this for like Batman, you know, or like James Bond even, like, and James Bond gets killed. Let's say they didn't do a James Bond movie for like 10 years, and then they rebooted it, killed James Bond, and then like a new guy started.
Well, a better analogy might be like a TV show like The A-Team. If you had like The A-Team, and then in the end Hannibal double crosses everyone and kills them, and then you've got a whole new set of characters that are the new A-Team. You know, like, that would be kind of a controversial idea for a reboot. I think they got away with it only because I don't think this show was quite as popular, or was a little older, so I don't think the audience, because I don't know, did you guys ever watch the original TV show?
I've seen it, but I didn't watch it heavily.
Yeah, I know I did in reruns, but it was not part of my, like, the regular things that I watched all the time. So I'd seen episodes, and I knew that Jim Phelps was the main character, and honestly, I was shocked when I saw it in the theater, and I was like, holy shit, they can't make him a bad guy. But that's why it was a great twist, because you really wouldn't see it coming, and it worked.
It's also like a really genius maneuver, because it sort of allows them to launch this as the Tom Cruise vehicle.
A hard reboot,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's we need Tom Cruise to be the character that you follow through this franchise, if it's going to be a franchise.
Exactly.
And maybe we shouldn't do that as him playing Peter Graves from this TV show.
Right. Yeah, it was very smart.
Even though we do need to use the intellectual property from the TV show, we probably can't do it that way if we want to down the road.
Yeah, I think it was a really smart way to handle it. I do understand why the original people in the series were butthurt about it, but, you know, honestly, they were wrong. I think, you know, like, that's okay. They can take it personally. It should be personal for them, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it was a good move. And like, despite their complaining about it, you know, I'm glad that they decided to go through with it, because it is a really cool twist, and like something you really don't see coming. I mean, now we do, because we've seen it 30 times, but like, you know, the first time you see it, and if you have any, like you said, knowledge about the original characters or whatever, maybe now it doesn't play as well because people aren't aware of that or whatever.
People know the movie a lot more than they know the original show.
Yeah, I haven't seen the show, so I just have the movie.
Yeah, I thought was on the rewatch here, I kind of was amazed at how much this is actually more faithful to the original show than some of the later ones, because the series was all about Like they were all con artists. There was almost no action ever. There was no gunfights. There was no killings.
It was more heisty.
Yeah, it was heisty. It was all about like tricking people, and they would always have a way of like tricking.
Much like the A-Team.
They would always do things where, like, in a later movie, I won't get too far deep into it, but they convince a guy that it's like a different period of time, that a week has gone by and really it's only been a few hours. That was like the go-to move in the show. In fact, I think they had one episode where they convinced a guy that he had actually gone back in time to like 30 years prior. and that's how they get these people to like, they just basically rearrange the world around these people to con them, and that's where all the masks come in and everything. And this had a lot of those deception elements in it, and a lot less of the violent direct action that happened in some later ones. Even the grand finale.
The cold open is exactly that. They've got some guy, and he doesn't know where he is or how long he's been there, but he needs help.
I thought the cold open was hilarious because I was like trying to remember back to watching it the first time in the theater, which I couldn't, but I must have been sitting there thinking, oh, are they just going to do the TV show? Because that, like, the open of the movie with the dead hooker in the Russian hotel room was like totally old school Mission Impossible TV show. And then even when they go to Prague and work their con at the embassy, that was still like the plan was like until Emilio Estevez gets killed by that random giant spike in the elevator shaft.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
Why didn't he duck?
Why does an elevator shaft have a bunch of spikes on the top of it, and why does it have one spike that's longer than all the other ones that's immediately, like, directly Emilio Estevez placed?
And more jagged.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And why didn't he just move to the side?
Yeah, why didn't
or
he
duck?
He looked right at it.
Well, if you have any pride as a computer hacker, at that point you just accepted that you failed as a hacker and you
deserve to die.
Oh, it's a pride thing. I understand. I guess.
I hated how in that like briefing scene when Jon Voight's like explaining the plan to them, it's so like writerly. Like you could really feel that 3 different like hotshot writers were like really like carving up this scene in particular. They all have like a funny quip that they say, like I wish I could remember some of the things that they said, but like someone's like, you call this coffee? Like, do you remember that coffee you made back in
Here's some backstory. We know each other and we've worked together before.
Yeah. They called it sludge or something.
When I was watching it, I actually was wondering if that was all a little bit intentional to keep up the ruse, because it felt very much like a TV show episode of the old series, like that it was like they were kind of leaning into the cheese of that to be like... I think
it gives you a little bit of stakes on when they kill everyone in the next scene, too.
Yeah, but I wonder if maybe some of it was just like, hey, let's really convince them that this is all, we're playing this all straight, this is on the up and up, and we'll do it with some cheesy dialogue that they wouldn't expect, and
the plot twist is everybody thinks this movie's gonna suck, and then it doesn't.
Exactly. I also thought it was funny that like in the opening credits, the only actor that gets mentioned is Tom Cruise. That's the only name that comes up in the opening credits. And the only people that you don't see Ving Rhames, you don't see Jean Reno. You only see the people in that room. What's her name?
Kristen Scott Thomas.
Kristen Scott Thomas and Emilio Estevez, who was like, it was a surprise that he was even in this movie, but he was still kind of a movie star at this point,
Yeah, he's a familiar face. Anyone I've ever watched this movie with, they always say, "Is that Emilio Estevez? I didn't know he was in this movie." Yeah. And then he dies like 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
He's kind of in this movie.
You gotta love Emilio Estevez, though. You gotta love him.
Do I?
I was just talking about St. Elmo's Fire the other day, and he's the character that's hardest to remember from St. Elmo's Fire because his plotline is so weird.
Care to elaborate? We all haven't seen that.
Can you describe his plotline in St. Elmo's Fire?
He convinces himself that he's like in love with this woman, and he just starts following her around and trying to like convince her that she should give him a chance, and she's just kind of like, "You're really sweet, but I don't know you." Like, it's really fucking weird. And
so like the creepy romantic 80s guy.
Yeah, exactly. And much of the movie is about the main character's ensemble cast interacting with each other, and most of his story is about him and this woman is not one of those main characters, but it is Andie MacDowell, who's from Groundhog Day.
Yeah, she's cool.
Interesting. That's a good summary of St. Elmo's Fire, Colin.
Yeah, he ends up following her to on a ski trip or like into a cabin where it's snowing all around. And he's like, "Oh, I followed you here because I wanted to try to talk to you and convince you that like I love you and you should love me." And she's like, "I'm here in a log cabin in the snow with my boyfriend." And he's like stuck and he can't leave, and they like have to take him in and let him sleep there in the next room, and it's so weird. He's like, I
feel like
out.
we should spin this off into a separate St. Elmo's Fire podcast.
Yeah, we could. We should.
After our Twister podcast.
Yes.
Colin, should you do your movie summary of this twisty plot?
Okay, I guess so.
Should we put 2 minutes on the clock
I'm
here?
trying to make my thing go sideways. Okay, hold on. Okay, all right, here we go. What's the give me the start me up.
Yeah, I got you. Ready?
Okay.
On your mark, get set, go.
So it starts out with the Impossible Mission Force. What they do is they trick some guy into getting this super top secret information they need to get with masks and like a little fake hooker setup. And then it's like, let's get into this. This is the Force. They got a big job. They got to catch some guy who's trying to steal the Knocklist. And they're going to catch him. They're following him around. And then shit just like hits the fan. Everybody starts fucking dying. And Tom Cruise is like, my team, they're dead. And then he starts running away, and then this guy Kittredge, who's from the CIA, is like, "Yeah, we've been watching. We think there's a mole. We had another IMF team following you. We think you are bad, and we're probably going to arrest you." And he's like, "I'm not into that." And so he blows up an aquarium and he runs away. Then he decides his plan should be to find the people who were looking for the Knocklist in the first place, steal the Knocklist, and then find out the guy who was really the mole because he couldn't steal the Knocklist because he failed. So then he steals the Knocklist with this like ragtag, motley crew group of Ving Rhames and the French guy, and they go in and they steal the Knocklist by him hanging from a wire in the middle of the CIA and like putting a floppy disk in a computer. And then he's taking the floppy disk to the main bad guy who's looking for the Knocklist, and then he realizes that he's been betrayed the whole time by Jon Voight, who was the main guy in the IMF mission force, who was like his mentor. And then they're all on the train together. The bad guy, Jon Voight, the woman who's like the betrayer, who was playing both sides, Jon Voight and him, and the CIA guy Kittredge. And then the French guy comes in with a helicopter, and Tom Cruise blows him up and kills Jon Voight and shows everyone who the real bad guys and good guys were. And he's like, "I did it." And then Ving Rhames is like cool again, and he can do good stuff.
Yay!
Yay! 2 minutes. A little lackluster at the end there. But.
Nice.
Yeah, it lived to the finish, but still made it with time to spare. Nicely done.
I feel like I covered everything.
Yeah, I think you did. I don't think you missed anything. Nothing important, anyways.
Yeah.
We should talk a little bit about the cast, starting with Thomas Cruise Maypother IV. This was sort of he was obviously a huge star at this point. He'd been a star for a decade. He kind of broke out with Risky Business and then was like a bona fide movie star with Top Gun in 1986. So basically 10 years earlier. And then he did nothing but great stuff for that decade.
A Few Good Men.
Cocktail, Rain Man, Days of Thunder, The Firm, Interview with a Vampire. And that's what he came into this off of, that just a string of hits. But I think this was the point in his career where he sort of decided that he had greater career ambitions, and he started this production company with Paula Wagner, who was one of the most powerful agents in Hollywood. And as many people know, agents can't be producers, so they don't get as much of a cut of these things. They don't get as much power. And the same way that Tom Cruise is probably making people bank on all these blockbuster movies and was like, "Hey, how come I'm just an actor and I don't get as much impact here?" So this was a big part of him, sort of moving his career as when you're the biggest action star in the world. There's not a lot of places you can move your career forward, but this was one of them, was becoming a producer, and really had a pretty heavy creative hand in this movie and continued to have just even a greater creative hand in the future films.
Yeah, and it easily could have been a failure, and that could have been the end of his producing career. But, I mean, this was a massive success, and obviously, like, he I know, like, for this, he was commanding $20 million paychecks for every movie at this point, and he chose to not take a $20 million check for this movie in favor of like points and a percentage of the gross at the end, and that was a big risk, and then it paid off for him, and I think he does that a lot now.
Is this in between the Kidman marriage and the Holmes marriage, or is it still during the Kidman marriage?
That's a great question.
I'm not sure exactly when his marriages broke up specifically, but
no, I think he was still with Nicole Kidman for Eyes Wide Shut, which was,
that's true.
Eyes
Yeah,
Wide Shut was the last thing that.
Yeah, they were still together when they did that, which was I think a couple years, 2 years later.
Yeah, it was 99.
99, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 years.
So this
2-3
and
years.
this actually, that's interesting because this started sort of his. It also started a change in his career because before this, the only like kind of serious movie he'd ever done was Born on the 4th of July, and then after this, he got into more auteur-driven pictures like Magnolia and Eyes Wide Shut, Vanilla Sky, Collateral, that were working with these famous directors. And I'm curious if this had any impact on that at all, because obviously De Palma was looked on as a pretty well-respected auteur.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's also interesting, and we'll probably talk about this more as we watch future Mission Impossible movies. But this is very much a Brian De Palma movie in a lot of like, you get a lot of his signature shots, the overhead shots, the like camera moving through walls, a lot of the really sophisticated tracking shots through crowds, and
the first person shooter view.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of his signature all over it, and also just the heightened style of the whole thing.
It's so good.
And then in the future ones, we have different directors come in and put their own little imprint on it. But the one consistent thing is Tom Cruise. He's kind of the auteur of this franchise. He's basically like the Broccolis are with the Bond franchise, who's like the quality control guy.
Right. Yeah, it's very true. So we already talked about Jon Voight. There's quite a bit of an international cast here. We have Emmanuel Bert. Am I saying her name correctly?
Probably.
I guess it's like bear with a T,
that's probably just
or you
bear.
could say it's Beert.
Beert.
Is it French?
I think it's French. Yeah.
You don't pronounce the
might
T
be.
then.
Bear.
Yeah, bear.
Oh, so it's just like a bear.
Yeah.
She's actually made a shit ton of French movies, but this is like her only recognizable American or international movie.
I feel like she has to be in something else because I recognize her.
I thought of Harris because she looks a lot like the woman who's the lead female character in Kingpin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You
don't
think
see
so?
that
Yeah, I
Vanessa
guess I
Angel?
can see it. I'm looking at her pictures now. She does kind of look like her.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Pull up a side by side.
It's the lip job.
I'm looking at her IMDb page, and I'm not seeing anything familiar except for this movie. They're all French movies.
We also have Jean Reno, who he starred as a French soldier spy assassin in La Femme Nikita, Leon the Professional, Mission Impossible, Ronin, Godzilla, Crimson River, The Da Vinci Code. In fact, he has never played any other part in any movie that he's ever been in. He's always
he always plays
always
like a French hitman.
Spy, assassin, soldier. Something.
What do you guys think of the character of Max?
She's hot.
The lovely Vanessa Redgrave.
Yeah, I don't know anything else that Vanessa Redgrave is in, and I know that she's famous. I've heard her name before, but I will say my one thought, and you guys are probably gonna agree, is that she's the sexiest old lady I've ever seen.
Yeah.
She just exudes like sexuality.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's great about it too is they make it very clear in the beginning that this is a bad guy. Like this is probably an enemy of the United States.
Our
of
hero.
America.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, it's like, oh well, it's a hot woman, and even the Kittredge guy is like, maybe we can work something out.
Yeah.
She was in Antonioni's movie Blow Up. That Brian De Palma movie Blowout was actually a remake of, and she was also in Camelot, and she was also in a movie called Julia. So those would be her big thing. She was also the old lady in Atonement.
And she's in Driving Miss Daisy.
Oh, yeah.
And Ridley Scott's Robin Hood.
Oh yeah.
She's been in a few things.
Oh, never mind. She was not in Robin Hood.
I was saying, oh yeah, to the fact that Ridley Scott made a Robin Hood movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking I've never seen that movie, so I'll just take your word for it.
It's dicey territory trying to make a Robin Hood movie after Prince of Thieves, which is fantastic.
The greatest Robin Hood movie ever, yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Did you know? Are you guys aware that there was a Robin Hood movie with Jamie Foxx that came out like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yep. And who was the was it Taron Egerton? Who was the lead in that?
Yeah, Taron Egerton, Elton John.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy who plays
It's-
Elton John?
It starred Elton John and Jamie
okay.
Foxx as
Elton John and Ray Charles together in a movie.
Wow.
It's never too late to start your directing career, however, because Vanessa Redgrave made her directorial debut in 2017 at the age of 80.
Wow.
Nice.
So
I think I'm going to be ready after about 40 more years too.
don't give up.
Who else we got? Ving Rhames, obviously, dude's solid. He's got earrings. He's got a Band-Aid on the back of his neck.
He'd been working for about 10 years when this came out, more than 10
He was at a
years.
high point in his career. He's hot
Well,
on Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And he was in something else really big too around this time.
Shortly after this, he was about, I think, 2000. When did Out of Sight come out? But this was sort of, this and Pulp Fiction were kind of what, Pulp Fiction put him on the map, and then this sort of was like, I think, got him a lot more work.
What's his character's name in Pulp Fiction? It's like a really good name, right? Like Diamond.
Marcellus
something.
Wallace.
Marcellus Wallace. That's so good. Marcellus.
Does
Wallace.
Marcellus Wallace look like a bitch?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's such a great name.
Say what one more time.
Oh, you know what? Diamond Dog is his name in Con Air.
Oh,
That's
that's the
what
other
I
one.
Oh,
yeah,
Con
right.
Air's
Yeah, too.
great.
Of course, Con Air.
Let's do a Con Air podcast.
Oh my God.
Oh my
yeah.
Let's do like 20 Con Air podcasts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
Why couldn't you just put the bunny down?
this was the this came out the same year as The Rock. This actually did better than The Rock.
Oh, I love The Rock.
Yeah.
Wow.
How anything could do better than The Rock, I don't know.
You know what's crazy is I saw this in theaters, but I was not allowed to see The Rock.
What?
Yeah, because The Rock is too violent, and I don't know. I don't get it either.
It's
Wow.
too much Sean Connery for you to handle.
Did Broken Arrow come out that same year too? Do you guys remember that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, John Woo's second U.S. feature.
Was that what he made right before Mission Impossible 2?
Was it that or Face Off? What order did they come in?
Oh,
Broken Arrow
'cause
is
I
after Face Off. Face
No,
Off
Broken Arrow was before
Broken
Face
Arrow.
Off.
it's before
No.
Face Off.
What? I don't believe that.
I'm looking this up, but there's no way I'm wrong.
Well, I don't believe it until you Google it.
All right, well, you guys
Broken
talk
Arrow
about
is
something
great.
else, and I'll Google.
Here's the question though: is Broken Arrow peak Christian Slater? Many would say
I think
no. I
it's
guess.
his maybe his peak, but it's like maybe a little after.
No,
his
it's
peak. I think
well
it's
after his
downward-
Gleaming the
yeah.
Cube is peak Christian Slater. That is
Okay. All right.
don't even bother asking.
I just wanted the facts.
All right, so I've got some John Woo filmography for you. He made the greatest action movie ever made in 1992 with Hard Boiled. Then he came to America in 1993 with Hard Target, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, which was not good. Then he made Broken Arrow, which was a good enough action movie, and it did come out the exact same year as this, 1996. Then Face Off was 97, and then Mission Impossible 2 was 2000.
Wow. So he took a well-deserved break after Face Off.
Yeah.
For a couple of years.
He's like, I finally nailed one, thank God.
Man, I wish we could talk about Mission Impossible 2, but alas, we shall wait.
We will have plenty of time for that.
Andrew, do you have
What?
any insights on this movie, or like anything that stuck out to you, or maybe like talk about your first time you saw this movie, or any kind of funny stories?
I mean, I don't remember a lot of specifics from when I first watched it, other than the whole mole situation. But it's interesting watching movies like this now. I mean, I can't believe, first of all, that this movie is 24 years old or something.
Yeah.
I
crazy.
mean, that's wild to me. So it's interesting to look back on movies like that use, the kinds of technology that they're using, and the computers and stuff like that, and see what holds up and what just looks completely ridiculous.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there because yes, that Job 314 scene with the
The
emails.
Usenet.
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that
That's
is
not how
like
the internet
painful to
works?
watch. How the internet works. Yeah. Like, okay, what is it? It's Job at 314.com or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just keeps trying, and then he's like, "I'm gonna do this in every language and stay
Yeah.
up all night."
Chooses somebody else's screen name and therefore can email as them.
I love
Yeah.
also that he searched this stuff, and if I was watching it correctly, it's like he searched the word Job and nothing came up.
Right.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
so it's as if you Googled something and it was like, sorry, 0 results.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have any of
Google
those.
Bible first, and then you can Google Job.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when he searched Job 314, it brought him to like a Bible, like something. I don't dare I call it a web page? I don't know like what it was.
It probably has something to do with Boolean. I think that's a
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, that scene does not hold up. Aside from that, though, for a '90s movie, it does. I think because it's so European, it takes place in a lot of European countries. It's not as '90s-ified as it could have been, like many movies from this era are. But yeah, the technology aspect is really. I mean, like even the rest of the technology in the movie is pretty cool.
Holy shit. I got a cat running amok here.
Amok.
There's a cat literally. A cat is literally bouncing off the walls right now.
We didn't.
Cool.
We didn't actually record that part of me telling that story.
Oh well, I'm sorry, but maybe you could tell it now because this
Okay.
cat has run amok.
Yeah, when me and my friend Kevin Wheelich, when we were young, like really young, we used to have one of our games was one of us would just say, "Hey, do you want to run amok?" And then if the other person responded yes, we would run full speed all around the house, jumping on and off all the furniture and yelling amok, 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 amok over and over again for as long as we could.
Definitely cat
I would-
behavior.
I would do that now.
Yeah, everyone wants to do it.
Yeah, I feel like especially with everyone being shut-ins, everyone's ready to run amok.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt, you were talking about the technology aging well. Although the giant Austin Powers-sized computers, laptop things that they have that are like as thick as like 2 Etch-a-Sketches put together are always kind of comical.
Yeah, I like how they can have all that stuff, but then like the scene when he's dangling from the wire in the room, like all that stuff is really cool.
That's
It feels like
awesome. Yeah.
something they would have today. Maybe.
When Max pulls out the first Knocklist copy, it's on a floppy disk that holds like
The Knocklist is like a Word document.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
text file and it takes up the entire disk.
Yeah.
It's,
I also think it's funny that they can't make a laptop that weighs less than 30 pounds, but they have these micro cameras in the glasses that can see
Yeah.
everything.
with
Exactly.
with transceivers so they can send and receive all the data.
I also like the little, thing that she puts on the guy's back so that they can track where he is when she's
Right.
sitting next to him.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Right.
Yeah. I actually like the perfume thing from the beginning better. Where they
Oh yeah, the yellow
yeah.
spray.
She
Yeah.
tags him and yeah.
I liked like all the stuff that was going on in that opening like scene when they're following the guy who has a cool name. I can't think of his name.
Oh,
The bad guy that they're who's gonna steal the
like
Knocklist.
Schlotnick
Who's
or
actually a good
something.
guy.
I forgot. It's not Schlotnick, but it's like,
Yeah, it's something like that. You're right.
It's Kulot.
Nick or I don't know.
No, not Kulot.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, look it up.
You guys keep talking.
Okay.
I got a little thrown off, and I notice this every time I watch it, about what time of day it is, or night, I guess, when they're in Prague. Because there's this big party going on, and then when they're on the streets, it looks like it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. There's like no one around. And then sometimes there are some people.
The rendezvous is at 4 a.m. because she says that over and over when she comes back, and he's like wrestling
that's
her on
right.
the bed, and she's like, "The rendezvous was 4 a.m. The rendezvous was 4 a.m." So that
But
means,
that's after he's
that
already
means the party was at
done-
around midnight.
He's
because
already
it was
Googled
an
at that
hour
point?
after everyone died.
Yeah, he's
when he
already
met with
he's already
Kittredge.
Googled. He's already met Kittredge. He's already done all these different things.
It's just somebody was like, all right, however much fog juice we have, double it.
Yeah.
And
And light everything from like really like they must have been throwing lights on streets that were like blocks away.
yeah,
Yeah.
they hired the DP from Ozark and said, make it blue as fuck.
Yeah, I read something about how like Brian De Palma really wanted to shoot in Prague. He had to like convince everyone high and low to do it. And, they were like in the article or whatever, it's like, it really paid off because the beautiful cinematography of the beautiful city is like really apparent. And like, not for me, when I'm watching this movie, like it's so foggy, you can't see shit. You just see like, I know there's a bridge that someone falls off, and you see like the interior of a building.
Yeah, it could have been a backlot. It
Yeah,
would have been the same
Right.
thing.
Prague had been a communist country, so this is like the first modern American movie to shoot there, because I think it had been a communist country up until like the year before or something, 94 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is when it went from Czechoslovakia to Czech Republic, right? Or whatever.
Sure.
I'll have to check.
I
Nice.
disagree. I totally appreciate the DP being able to work with the Pragian milieu.
Yeah, I thought it looked good. I do think that it's like maybe it's a European thing on the time difference because they tend to go out to bars pretty late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just weird how there's this big party going on, but then the streets are completely empty, so I wasn't sure. I need
Well,
answers.
that's because everyone's in the club.
They're all there, that's right. Everyone in Prague is in the one spot.
Yeah.
There's certainly no one on that bridge.
Did Jon Voight need to throw himself into the water, or could he
Yeah,
have
it's
just
so
been like, well, I got
ridiculous,
shot. That sucks. That seemed like a little over the top.
Or throwing his glasses into the water. I don't know. Like, that could've-
Something.
Another
Yeah.
way to do that.
The real question is, did he have to act like he was shot and like make a face? Like he's performing because the glasses are recording what's happening.
Yeah.
So all he has to do is like look at bloody hands and then fall over. But instead he cheesily is like,
Doesn't he say it out loud? I've been shot or something like that.
Yeah.
yeah.
They got me.
They got me. They shot me. I think it's a fatal wound. I don't think I'll last long. Definitely do not come and look for me because I am dead. Oh no, I'm dead. Go about your business. It's too late for me. My last words are, I'm dead.
Oh, the humanity.
I think it's funny that he does the thing with the gun, like turned around, pointed at himself too. And I was trying to remember if, like, when I originally saw it, if that was suspicious at all, because it really, when you know that that's what's happening, there's no way to not look at it like the gun is turned around, pointing at the person who's shooting it.
Yeah.
Also, did he plant that little cloth full of fake blood on the bridge hours before, or was it?
That's what I was wondering. What is that thing?
I kind of feel like he might have set that up before he made the call. Like he was like, "Oh, by the way,
But
Ethan."
What he's holding, it looks like he's holding like a bleeding like heart or something that he's stolen from someone, and he's rubbing it all over himself.
Okay, so to me,
It's a
it
baboon
looks like
heart.
when he reaches for it, he's reaching in and like scooping out just like a pool of it in his hand. But then after he gets done rubbing it all over himself, he's got like a little something that he has
Sack.
to like, discard. So it's
I think it might be a heart. It might be a liver.
It's haggis.
That makes sense.
It's good for something.
When you see Jon Voight, do you think about that Seinfeld episode where they have to get his teeth marks?
What?
Okay, so George, he starts driving like a Chrysler LeBaron or something, like a convertible.
Oh, right, yeah.
And
He's got the
like,
pencil.
He
Got
finds
Jon
in
Voight's
the glove
pencil.
box a thing that says, Jon Voight, and he's like, it's Jon Voight's car.
Oh
And
yeah, I
people
do
start
remember
paying
that.
attention to him because he says that he's driving Jon Voight's car.
Yeah.
And then they have
And he's
to
got Jon
determine if
Voight's
it's-
pencil with Jon Voight's bite marks in it.
Yeah, they have to determine if it's the Jon Voight. And so he finds a pencil with bite marks in it. And in the end of the episode, he runs into the real Jon Voight and he bites him.
We haven't talked at all about the most iconic scene in the movie. I mean, we mentioned it briefly, but we
Is it
haven't
your
talked about
background?
This vault break-in.
Yeah.
Which is set up to. I think it's kind of awesome that like this is where it really gets set up like a heist movie, where it's like the classic heist movie moment where Ethan talks through the security, and we get like a preview of what's going to happen. And I was trying to think, has any movie ever done that moment and it wasn't fun? Like I feel like every time I get let's talk through the heist. Well, they got guards at the front gate and they got this, and then we see all the preview. I'm always like, yes, more of this.
Yeah.
I love heist movies. I love them. I really felt like one that was underappreciated that was recent was Logan Lucky. That one was so good. think it flew under a lot of people's radars.
I feel like Colin is desperate to change the subject. Every time he gets the floor, he's like, "Hey, let's talk about some other thing."
No, this movie is awesome. It's really good. It's just I don't want to just say it's good over and over again. So
well, stop trying to force Logan Lucky down my throat, Colin.
Fucking watch it, man. Watch it.
Every time we talk to you, it's Logan Lucky this, Logan Lucky that.
Well, I mean, we could go back to talking about Christopher Lloyd. Or not.
So my favorite part of this whole thing is Jean Reno up in the duct is like holding the the length of rope that's like dipping Tom Cruise down into the room, and then this rat comes out of nowhere. They're like pristine, beautiful ducks in this like high tech building, but somehow there's a rat in there, and
somehow this rat never sets off the laser alarms that it could clearly walk over.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that they subtly just cut back to Jean Reno like a few minutes later, and you just see like the dead rat behind him. So how did he let go to kill the rat? He had to let go with at least one hand, unless like it would have been cool to see him like headbutt the rat to death. Like it's like right next to his head. It's just like
that would have been nice.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, sit tight, Ethan. I got bigger fish to fry up here.
So
didn't he?
Just
I thought he stabbed the rat. I thought that's why he had the knife out later when he drops it.
Yeah, that's what I.
Oh well, we don't see that.
Yeah,
but I thought it was
rat
implied
blood on the knife when it falls in.
That's true.
I want to see some dirty rat blood.
Yeah.
I was one of the shows that I wrote on. We did an episode where a character was crawling through like a duct like that, and a rat crawls across her. And we had a meeting where they had rat casting, and they brought in 6 different rats for the director to look at. It was one of the greatest days of my life. And the director was John Badham, who did Saturday Night Fever and War Games and Short Circuit and all that. So,
wow,
awesome.
Just to stand in a room with John Badham going, I don't know, use the gray one, I guess. And that was the end of the meeting.
I was going to ask, what is the criteria for rat casting? Did they have like
the
callbacks?
guy like comes. It's like if you've watched Tiger King. It's somebody like that who shows up, and they're like, okay, let me tell you about all these different rats. And it was like, just whichever one is not going to die, I guess. I don't know.
This one here is sniffy. He
Yeah.
likes to sniff things.
Well, Gabriel's kind of a diva, but he's very good. And
He's earned
Genevieve
it.
can be a little shy up front, but once you get her going...
I don't think I'd be good at one of those castings because I think I would get curious and start asking, like, how do you profile the personalities of these animals, sir?
Yeah, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Could we get? I'm looking for a chemistry test. I want to see how these 2 rats play off each other. Can we get them for a callback? This is gonna be a several week process.
I don't know how to say this because I don't want to be insulting, but why are you like this?
Yeah. Let me get the president of the network on the line.
Yeah, everyone's gonna get some input on this one.
Yeah.
I think that this is one of the best sequences in this movie, and it's also done. Whereas De Palma in all the rest of this movie and in almost every other movie he's ever done, especially in scenes where he's trying to create tension, relies heavily on a very aggressive score to show that tension. This scene is almost entirely silent, almost like Rafifi, or like Top Copy or some of those old heist movies that play these scenes really quietly, and it works to create the tension. I do think that it is the most ridiculous scene. Like all these security measures, everything about it is so absurd. And I also don't know how he catches the drop from his eye with his hand like cupped underneath it when he's got to hold his hand palms down. Like he's holding his hand palms down so he doesn't hit the floor. And then he somehow manages to get his hand palm up under his face, which doesn't make any sense to catch a drop.
Tom Cruise has a trick elbow. He's got a little notch, and he can flip it around so it can go the other way.
He must.
Well, and
be
keep in
able
mind
to.
his arms are only about 6 inches long, so it's easy.
That is true. And also, Jean Reno's having trouble just holding him, but then when the guy comes into the room, he just wheels him up, just shoots him right up out of the room.
Yeah,
It
and
is
also
completely absurd.
They lose the pulley, the little wheel that makes it a pulley. It breaks, and he's just dragging the rope against the metal at that point, so it's even harder.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great comedic moments in that scene that, like, the mixture of tension and funny is really well done.
The guy going to the bathroom over and over again.
Yeah.
He's just shitting his brains out.
It's a very funny diarrhea joke hidden within a very tense scene.
I wish they would have taken that whole scene and then just cut to Jeff Daniels in the bathroom in Dumb and Dumber.
Exactly. Just with his legs up in the air.
Yeah. His eyes are crossed.
The Knocklist.
Yeah.
The slow motion knife fall at the end is awesome though. That is like the
So
best
good.
payoff of that thing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and it like everything drops out audio wise, and it's just like silently. And then it,
Right.
like I love the shot of the color of the floor changing, like just before it hits. Like,
Yeah.
signifying that the
Yeah.
system turned off or whatever. That's cool.
Yep.
It's a pet peeve of mine when like someone is hiding on the ceiling and the character never looks up to
Right.
see, because it just doesn't happen in real life. Like you walk into a room and like your human eye just like allows you to see everything, unless it's like 100-foot ceiling.
Maybe it's
And
because
even
I watched.
then, you look up.
Maybe it's because I watch too many movies. But the first thing I do every time I enter a room is check out the ceiling. I'm just like, who's up there? What's going on?
Spider-Man? Is that you, Tom
Yeah.
Cruise?
What's left? Should we talk about the finale on the train?
So the only thing that doesn't hold up for me is the helicopter in the tunnel thing. And honestly, the helicopter flying right up to the back of the train. I don't see how this guy flies helicopters. I know they put the line in early where he's like,
They
I can
did.
fly a helicopter right
They
into Fort
planted it.
Knox. But I don't see a helicopter doing pretty much any of what we saw a helicopter do in this movie.
Well, they did have a guy who I think the next year, a stunt helicopter pilot, flew through a tunnel like this to prove that he could do it.
Well, yeah, okay.
But yeah, it's probably a little far-fetched.
It was the wildest episode of Mythbusters you've ever seen.
Is
And the
there one?
bloodiest.
I would watch that.
For sure.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to have some suspension of disbelief there, especially when the other train goes by and somehow there's a helicopter and two trains in the tunnel, and that's not a problem.
And also, they're cutting to, like a medium close-up shot of the guy who's piloting the helicopter, and he's like looking around at what's going on the train. The level of concentration it must take to fly a helicopter through a tunnel. He should be, kind of looking straight ahead and holding the stick still. But he's, like ducking around and like darting
Don't tell
his
him what
eyes.
to look at.
Yeah, he literally tries to like decapitate Tom Cruise with the blades of the helicopter, only for the back of the blades to
Hit the
hit
roof.
the ceiling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see the risk reward there. Like, where did he? What makes him think it's a good idea to go for the kill in that way?
Yeah, like he's already should be like pretty grateful that he hasn't crashed his helicopter while flying through a tunnel while
Right?
tied to the back of a bullet train.
I did
You
clock
maybe-
that he looks pretty calm. Like his face in general is just like, this is sort of another day at the office for this guy.
Like it's
Well, he
maybe
is
more
French.
than the second time he's done it or something, which
Yeah.
is impossible.
Yeah, I've trained for this. Don't worry.
It's like this is actually my least favorite place to fly a helicopter in a train tunnel,
Oh, and-
but I can handle it.
To me, the most comical moment is when it all ends, and to explain what happened, they cut to a newscast that's actually describing there was an accident today as a helicopter flew into the tunnel. It's like, what the fuck? People are just gonna casually watch that as the news and not just like question it.
Well, that's what how many times has something like that happened? Freak accident where a helicopter flies somewhere where it shouldn't and crashes, and we all just accept it, and we don't know, we don't realize that Tom Cruise is behind all those helicopter crashes.
Yeah. Right.
So I mean, I think this movie was pretty solid. Do you guys want to rate it on our handy dandy rating system that we came
Yeah.
up with?
On a scale of 1 to 10 Timothy Dolphins.
So, Andrew, to explain, we formerly did a podcast about James Bond, and we thought it fitting, since the name of this podcast, License to Watch, is a play on License to Kill, which is a James Bond movie starring the great actor Timothy Dalton. We thought it would be cool to bring over our rating system and rate these movies on a scale from 1 to 10 Timothy Daltons. But in talking about it, Harris flubbed and called it Timothy Dolphin. So now we're going to rate this movie on a scale of 1 to 10 Timothy Dolphins. And thus our rating system was born.
That's brilliant.
So who wants to go first?
Hey, you know what the thing about rating things on a scale of Timothy Dalton's is? You got to do it on porpoise.
Nice.
That wasn't that good.
Okay.
Colin, just for that, you go first.
Okay. This movie is just really fantastic. When I was watching it, every moment I was like, I haven't watched this in maybe 10 years, and I remember everything like it's the first time, or it's like the second time, or I just watched it yesterday or something. It's all just so memorable because it's all so good. It hooks you, it keeps you with it, and it gives you what you want. It's a great movie. I'm just a little torn between either 8 or 9 Timothy Dolphins because it is a great movie. And so I'm going to give it probably 8.9 Timothy Dolphins.
So let's round up there.
Yeah, well, I'll give it a 9. It doesn't matter. These ratings don't mean anything.
What?
I think the Timothy Dolphin ratings are a sacred process.
Yes. How dare you betray its sacredness?
I won't have you bad-mouthing them. I also think we should have dolphin sound effects every time someone gives their rating.
Will. We will. And the viewers have been hearing them all this time.
Okay. Constantly.
It's just playing on loop in the background while Colin.
Yeah. I want the theme song to License to Kill, but sung by dolphins.
What's that one in Hitchhiker's Guide for the Galaxy they seen? Oh, thanks for all the fish. Thank you for all the fish or something. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about?
I've read that book, and I vaguely know what you're talking about.
It's a movie, too.
Oh,
Also.
I've never seen that movie, though.
Oh, I have. It has most stuff.
All right. Okay, I'll go next. Yes, this is an amazing movie. I am a huge Brian De Palma fan and have been forever. I feel like there's if you talk to people who love movies, there aren't a lot of people aren't half and half on Brian De Palma. You either love him or you hate him. I'm definitely in the love category. This is one of his best. Can you guys hear the car alarm going off right now?
Yeah.
Should I wait for that to finish?
Oh, I hear it, yeah.
I think it adds a nice ambiance.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I mean, this is K-Town, and this is what you hear in K-Town.
That's coming from your end, Harris?
Yeah.
Okay. It's gone. Oh, it's still there.
No, it's going through its whole cycle here.
Oh, it's one of those with multiple different kinds of sounds.
It'll be over in a second.
You know what's the stupidest invention of all time?
What's
the
that?
Car alarm.
The car alarm, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, every time I've thought about stealing a car, that's what's dissuaded me.
I give car alarms 0 Timothy Dolphins.
Yes. If there's a way to give negative Timothy, I would like to take several Timothy Dolphins away from the car alarms.
Yeah. Give me those dolphins back.
Liberate them. Save the dolphins. So, yes, as I was saying, I am a huge Brian De Palma fan. This is one of his best movies. I've also found that I've become, over the years, a huge Tom Cruise fan. This is one of his best movies. And I don't know if it's the best in this franchise, but it's definitely pretty close. So I just think it's so well executed, and it has so many iconic sequences. Right from the start, it's just creating great. Even the part in the phone booth where he's saying they're all dead, my team is dead. It's that is such a memorable moment in this movie that gets forgotten with all the trains and the exploding aquariums and all the other shit that goes on. It just has one. I guess it's funny that they wrote this movie by just piecing together a bunch of awesome sequences and finding a plot that kind of made sense, because that's what it is. It's just one awesome sequence after another, delightful from beginning to end. I give it 9 Timothy Dolphins.
Oh, I forgot something that I wanted to say. I really think that this should be in a triple feature with the Michael Douglas movie The Game and the Bill Murray movie The Man Who Knew Too Much. No, Too Little. Sorry, The Man Who Knew Too Little. I don't know what order you would put them in, but I think that would be a fantastic triple feature.
Well, I think The Man Who Knew Too Little actually directly spoofs this a couple of times with its like European location and a lot of the stuff it does.
And then Michael Douglas, The Game, it's like a mood thing. It has like a similar mood.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, continue. Sorry.
All right, I'll go. So yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I tend to rate movies on a visceral, like, feeling level, you know, like,
and always on a dolphin scale.
And always on a dolphin scale, a Timothy Dolphin scale. But I feel like this is a solid movie that can be watched anytime. Like, if it's on TV and any part of it is on, I'll try to watch till the end, which to me is the sign of a really great movie. There's nothing aside from that Job 314 email scene that really like stands out to me as bad or nonsensical.
There's no boobs in it, which I know is sort of that could hurt your score a little bit.
That is true. That is true. There's not a boob in sight. But honestly, you know, that thought never occurred to me because the plot and you know the action and everything is so good. The music, the direction, the acting, everything is great. The deception. I think for, you know, having done what you said, Harris, that they just strung the plot along, you know, the action sequences via, you know, connecting them. I really enjoy the plot of this movie. I remember as a kid not understanding fully what was going on, but as an adult, I can appreciate how how complicated it is, and that it makes sense. I like that he has to steal the Knocklist for the bad guy, for another bad guy, and how there's two Knocklists, and it makes sense that there would be two, and you know, all of it, all the intricacies of it works for me. And yeah, I mean, I guess the ending is the most like it's the most unbelievable part of the movie, but that's what makes it a movie. And you know, you gotta up the ante and have some sort of action. And I think the action is fitting for the movie we just saw. It's not too out there to the point where it doesn't fit with the rest. So I really enjoyed this movie. I'm glad that it was a success and that it brought many more sequels. And I'd watch this movie anytime. Oh, plus I really love U2's rendition of the Mission Impossible theme song, which we failed to mention.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that was on the next one.
No, that's Limp Bizkit, and never.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Limp Bizkit's the best.
We will
Metallica.
talk about that, but there is the second one. If there was a thing that it could do wrong, it found a way to do that thing wrong.
I think since we like compare it to the James Bond ones a little, I was thinking about. It doesn't have, you know, the Bond babes element. And, like, there's some cool women characters in this, for sure. But a lot of them end up, you know, getting killed, or the one woman is, like, a typical betrayer. And that kind of sucks. Like, you do, in Bond, you get women being objectified, but also sometimes you get them being just like total badasses, even though they're sexualized, you know?
I think that was actually one of the original taglines of this movie was, "So good you'll forget there's no boobs."
That's right. Anyway, I give it 9 Timothy Dolphins as well.
All right. Do we get guest dolphins too?
Yeah, guest Dolphins. It could tip the scales.
Yeah.
Dolphins don't
yeah,
have
I
scales.
hated it. This is my least favorite movie of all time. I don't even know why you guys are doing this. What a waste. You had me at Twister, and then you lost me at Mission Impossible. So it's hard because I find with a franchise like this, I then find myself comparing it to other movies in the franchise, and like I loved Fallout. I thought that was a great time, and it's completely ridiculous, and nothing is plausible in that movie, and I would watch that 1,000 times over, as I would with pretty much any of the movies in the franchise. But as a standalone one, I think this one is iconic. And again, the scenes with stealing the Knocklist, and as you guys said, the train and the restaurant with the fish tanks, which is not just a cool scene, but also really beautiful. Just the way that they shot it, and that this restaurant like standing out in the middle of Prague like that is pretty awesome. Yeah, and because it's iconic and those are things that you can just remember, and you're always like, yeah, that's badass. I'll watch that again. I'm gonna go with 9 as well.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
A
Wow.
universal 9 dolphins across
Yeah.
the board.
I think it's earned it. I don't know what a
Yeah.
10 looks like. Like, what is a 10 movie of any kind?
It
Harris knows.
might. Well, it's well.
Aside
Colin,
from St. Elmo's Fire.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
is not a 10.
I'm trying to think. What are the Bond? We gave Casino Royale a 10. Colin didn't, but me and Matt did.
Okay.
I think we
Yeah, I
gave out a
haven't
couple of
given
10s
any movie a 10 because the perfect movie has yet to be made.
because Colin is going to make it.
Yeah, it's true. Giving 10s. I thought about giving this movie a 10.
I was
because it is
close.
pretty solid, yeah.
I was close.
But I think there are later ones that I enjoy more.
I didn't want to compare it to the later ones because I wanted to like sort of take it as a standalone because there could be multiple 10s in this.
Yeah, that's true.
thing.
Yeah.
And I would have a hard time explaining why I didn't feel like it was a 10. It was mostly because it was just like for me, a 10 movie is, I don't know, Casino Royale is a 10 in my mind. This has a lot of the same elements, so the rewatchability is a big thing. I don't think it ever
saving your 10 for MI2.
It never it never drags in any critical spots. I do think there's moments where it does feel a little. I think you used the word writerly before to explain the introductory scene. There's a lot of times where I can see the sort of the puppet strings at work, and I usually don't care because we immediately launch into some badass scene that I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. But I do feel like there's moments where, and like the dialogue's great, the writing is great, but there are moments where I feel that I can see all the people that were making things and what they were thinking of and where they're trying to push me, and I always resent that a little bit. So I think that's probably why I knock a little bit off of this one, but it's still an incredibly enjoyable film.
Yeah, but that Job 314 scene, it really just it just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. I mean,
that was back when you could be like, "Hey, he's on the internet," and they're like, "Oh, that magic thing that I don't know anything about."
right.
Yeah.
See, that's how I felt when I watched Psycho. I'm like, why isn't it in color? Like, get on board, guys. Color's great. Have you seen it? Check it out.
All right. Well, I want to thank Andrew Zuber for being our inaugural guest on our inaugural episode show
of our inaugural podcast.
Thanks,
I
man.
just like
Yeah.
saying inaugural. Yeah, I mean, Andrew, what have you got going on? Do you have anything you want to plug? Do you have like a Twitter or Instagram or something
I'm
you're
at
working
the
on?
real Zuber on Twitter, and I'm Andrew Zuber on Instagram, and I got a couple pilots I'm writing right now. So, a crime one and one about how graffiti got started, which is kind of a cool story.
Those are both crime ones.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, damn. Harris taking a hard line against street art.
Yeah. The graffiti got started in Philadelphia in the 1960s, and it's this guy named Cornbread is credited with starting graffiti. And all the documentaries, all the movies about it, articles, books, everything, like, yep, Cornbread was the first guy. And what happened is he was in a juvenile detention center, and he asked the chef there why they never had cornbread. And the guy was like, get the fuck out of my kitchen. So he went back to his room and he started writing cornbread on the walls. And then he got out and he was writing cornbread all over the city of Philadelphia. And he's got there's a fan page on Facebook that I found. So I wrote to the fan page. I'm like, I'm doing research on this pilot. I would love to talk to somebody if there's anybody that could just give me some insight. And an hour later, my phone rings and it's a Philadelphia number on the caller ID. And I answer and the guy goes, hey, it's Cornbread. What do you want to know?
Oh
And
my
I was like, oh, damn. So
That's awesome.
that's been fascinating. So if you ever do a cornbread or a graffiti podcast, let me know.
Wow.
I got the guy for you.
Go-to guy, yeah.
Cornbread, the name or the food, doesn't matter.
They're both great.
That's
Yeah.
great. Do you want to quickly just tell these guys about your House Hunters experience?
Oh, yeah. I bought a house last year, so I was on House Hunters on HGTV. And that's the end of the story. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
awesome. Exciting.
Yeah, I performed at the Magic Castle in it, and it makes me look like an unemployed magician who can somehow afford to buy a house in Los Angeles. So it's not just the ending of Mission Impossible that's completely unrealistic.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah. So if you look up House Hunters, a dash of LA Abracadabra on YouTube, you can find the episode.
Wow, they were really working hard for that title, huh?
Yeah, they were. 4 separate times in the episode, I'm like, I don't know if this place is close enough to the Magic Castle, and the rest of America is going, what is he talking about?
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks again for doing this, and thank you guys. We did it. It's our first show officially. We are licensed to watch. So we'll be back next time with the classic film Mission Impossible 2. Subscribe, like us, and join our Patreon. We still have a Patreon for only $1 a month. You'll get some bonus content, that of which we do not know what it is yet. But or do we? Have we talked about this on air?
I think
before?
we talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it. We're gonna do some stuff. But part of it was about talking about new release movies, which is kind of a weird thing that's not going to happen now for a little bit. But hey, who knows?
Maybe we'll just talk about our COVID-19, almost like a diary.
Yeah, diaries from quarantine.
I've been 20.
I've been reading a lot of books. I can talk about the books I'm reading.
Hey,
we could do a podcast about books. That would probably get a lot of
page at a time.
That would probably get a lot of people interested. People love books, right?
Is that still a thing?
Theoretically, my slow decline into the permanent insanity could be starting at any day now. We could be documenting that.
We definitely should be. Well, anyway, we'll be back next week with Twister at St. Elmo's Fire.
Yes.
Those could be our bonus episodes. Actually,
let's just cut that part out of this episode and release it as a bonus episode. Colin is just
let's make a bonus episode about Twister.
Colin's digressions are just our bonus episodes now. We just cut them out of the main podcast.
Side note, I would actually love to do a bonus episode about Twister.
We gotta.
I don't want to watch Twister again, guys.
Why not? It's great.
So dumb.
It's awesome.
I guess I could.
Do you remember who the hero of that movie is? A belt.
The tornado.
Oh, Bill Paxton.
I thought it was a cow.
It's a belt. The cow is seen as great, but remember his belt is what keeps him around at the end.
They're like attached to a pipe. Yep.
Yeah, it makes no logical sense.
But I mean that does make sense in the sense that belts are awesome. They hold your pants up. You can end your life with them if necessary. They're like a tool of many purposes. You can beat your kids. There's like no end to the things you can do with your belt.
In belt we trust.
Yeah.
I think we should just go out on that.
You guys should buckle down and do that.
Trust. I give belts 10 Timothy Dolphins.
All right, on that, we'll see you next time.